Welcome to the Power Panel podcast, a show where we follow the leadership journeys of exceptional African women at the helm of public service and civil society. Our question is, how do African women lead and deploy power? I am your host, Ambassador Raychelle Omamo, a senior counsel, diplomat and former cabinet minister in Kenya. Just 6 months ago, our team at the Power Panel podcast embarked on an adventure seeking to provide a safe platform for daring and extraordinary African women to tell, share, and preserve their intriguing encounters with power, ambition, success, failure, and resilience. We wanted to affirm and build a culture of women's leadership in Africa. We have not been disappointed. Through season 1 of this podcast, we have reaped a precious harvest of knowledge and encouragement about power and leadership, not just for ourselves, but for you, our esteemed listeners and viewers. As we look forward to International Women's Day on the 8th of March 2025, and to a month of contemplation on the place and value of women's leadership in Africa's governance, peace, and prosperity, we are delighted to recap and share highlights of Season 1 of the Power Panel podcast with you. Please feel free to share your comments and thoughts with us in the comment section below, or email us at hello@birdsongafrica.com. Episode 1. The Rise and Rise of Boholo Kenowendo.
She is the former special advisor and first African director at the United Nations Climate Change High-Level Champion.
Youngest female member of parliament in the history of her country.
Served as Botswana's trade minister, Bogolo Kenowendo.
Leadership is nurtured, passion is nurtured, the drive is nurtured.
Boholo is a very special breed of African woman leader.
And that's something that I have been quite deliberate about, of making sure that I keep what, in my opinion, is a sustainable cadence of growth.
It is clear that Boholo doesn't just wait for things to happen. She makes them happen.
I became a youth delegate by completely pestering the youth office. It was about persistence, about understanding what we could offer and what other young people were already doing around the world, and not entirely about the privilege that we had because we didn't have any.
We note that Boholo positioned herself into the light astonishingly, so that she could not be ignored even at a young age. The lesson we draw from this is to create your own radiance by tapping into your strengths and placing yourself in spaces where your value can be seen by others.
Oh, things are so slow. You know, government is it's like a rat king. Sometimes you lift a tail and you think you're making progress and you find another tail. And you lift the other tail and you find another. And that can be frustrating.
We learn that decision-making and managing people is the essence of leadership and power. If you cannot make firm decisions and define the direction of travel, no one will follow you.
You know, navigating politics now, office politics, is actually part of the biggest challenges that a leader must learn to face. I am hoping that we become the generation that leads the economic revolution.
What is her power mantra?
You have no idea what you're capable of. I would say, well, that is my mantra to get me off my feet. But the leadership one is If at the end of the day, you have done something that makes life a little bit easier for the person that comes after you, then life is worth living tomorrow. One more day.
Episode 2, The Passionate Conservationist, featuring Dr. Paula Kahumbu. Dr. Paula Kahumbu. Her story is one of discovery, self-actualization, and the crystallization of a fierce passion for wildlife conservation in Africa, led by Africans and for Africans.
I just can't not speak out. You can't see injustices and just pretend they're not happening. One person's view and commitment can actually transform everything. A lot of the legitimacy comes from having the academic credentials that people are going to take you seriously. The other thing is the legitimacy in the sense of maintaining my stand, not being cowed into silence, not wavering on my commitment. I've never given a bribe. I've never taken a bribe. Having that confidence that you can't get me on that, it's incredibly powerful.
We observe two things: that passion fosters leadership and mentorship consolidates it.
And so Hands Off Our Elephants, we launched it because not enough was happening. The government was denying there was a problem. Different agencies were not working together. And really, international organizations were being called in to come and help. And we were like, no, this is our problem and these are our elephants and we are going to take it on ourselves. I wouldn't say I felt powerful because I didn't have power in the traditional sense. Like, I didn't have a pen that I could sign something, sign off or approve something. What I had was a very, very carefully planned campaign.
We observe that Paula is multifaceted and resourceful. She merges her intellectual knowledge and her courage with her natural creativity to devise fresh approaches to wildlife conservation. We learn that exemplary leadership can be fueled by invention and daring.
You know, I've had so many challenges with authorities in this country. They don't like to be told when things are not going right. They don't like to be told that something they're doing is going to have a negative impact, it's going to look bad.
What is her power mantra?
I guess the word trust comes to mind. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. You will be able to take on whatever challenge you face. It's always surprised me that despite how impossible sometimes things feel at the time, we can get through them. And that 5-year-old girl who wanted to stay invisible and actually stay in the forest and study elephants and never be seen by human beings, my commitment to conservation made it impossible for me to just stay in the forest and stay with the animals. We're always making choices, and I've never looked back and said, I really regret this or the other thing. I wish I could be cloned because I feel like there's a lot that still needs to be done. I have cloned myself in that there are so many people out there who are doing what I started.
Episode 3, The Accidental President, featuring Her Excellency Amina Gurib Fakim. On the 5th of June, 2015, she was elected by the National Assembly of Mauritius as the country's first female president, becoming Africa's first woman of Muslim faith to be a head of state.
I have said, and I will say it again, I am an accidental president. My father, who was, of course, my biggest cheerleader, was always telling me that there is nothing that you can't do. With education, with your intelligence, with your capacity and capabilities, you should be able to do anything.
We observe that Amina's story highlights a paradox. Despite the pervasiveness of patriarchy in our societies, fathers can play a critical role in affirming their daughters' dreams, building their confidence and setting them off on a strong path to the future.
I was ridiculed. I'm an organic chemist trained in the West. I was coming back and I was pretending to be working on weeds and getting results. You do not allow anybody to insult you. You allow people to insult you only with your permission, because risk-taking is not taught in any business school. It is something which is innate in you.
We learned from Amina that women can demonstrate power through resilience, self-belief, calculated risk-taking, and standing up for their convictions.
Women leadership is more compassionate. Women leadership is more about caring, which is undergirded by kindness. By being kind, you're not being weak. In the world of politics, there are no friendship, there's only interest.
What is her power mantra?
You know, power is an opium, right? It's a drug. It can become very addictive. And in fact, I think this is the addiction that make people want to stay and never want to let go. And I think the biggest form of power that you can have is to learn to let go when it matters, when it's the right opportune moment. Because what is power? Power is to be able to shape destinies, is to be able to shape societies, to leave behind a legacy. To me, that's the real purpose of power, is to be able to leave a legacy. Because at the end of the day, Rachel, we will all go. But by the time we have left this world, we should have been able to say, yes, I have used my position of power for the better good. And that's what we have to do. Learn to actually leave behind a legacy. And this legacy must be a legacy of power through kindness.
Episode 4, Leadership as Vocation, featuring Honorable Justice Maaza Ashinafi. Justice Maaza Ashinafi, former Chief Justice of Ethiopia, is a trailblazer. As a leading figure in Ethiopia's women's movement, she has helped advance women's legal and economic rights over decades.
Education is a key, is a door opener. I was the only girl in my class of 50 boys. I'm very much believer in principles. I'm very much believer in equality, and that confidence, that knowledge gave me the power to take action.
We observe that Maaza's journey to finding her vocation was not linear. In the pursuit of purpose, all experiences are valuable, even if they appear unsatisfactory at the time. They provide lessons that can prove critical in the future.
I was young. I was not even 30 years at that time. And when I look back, in fact, I am surprised myself, because normally that is a time for party, right? But I decided to take this huge responsibility upon myself. We created word for violence against women. There was no word for sexual harassment in Amharic.
We see that Maaza builds institutions and pioneers change. She does so by sensing opportunities, generating trust, and demonstrating integrity to unlock women's collective power.
Once you build credibility, the power is really significant. It is very important for me to do the right thing.
What is her power mantra?
So I think I'm going to borrow Judge Jackson's word, persevere. Persevere. The women, whether they are old or young or middle-aged, we just have to persevere, because we have important contribution to make in this world.
I thank you for listening and joining me in uplifting the voices of African women leaders. Join us for a further recap of Season 1 next Tuesday. This is the Power Panel Podcast.